This is first in a series of a few videos that I thought I should bring out on my interactions with Oommen Chandy and bringing out a side of Oommen Chandy which many people do not really know about or know but don't know in depth. Today I'm trying to cover Oommen Chandy and NISH. As most of you know, NISH is now over 25 years old and has contributed heavily in the area of the disabilities, especially for the hard of hearing and those with speech impairment. Oommen Chandy's contributions are many. I will try to bring out a few of them. Even before he became the CM, once NISH was started, he used to inquire with me about its activities and say if there is any support required, I should definitely get in touch with him. Later on, the NISH was set up during the time of V.K. Nayanar, and Sushila Gopalan was then minister, and they decided to give land. The cabinet made the approval, but it got into so much of bureaucratic issues that subsequently it was Oommen Chandy who helped clear that and ensured that the land came to NISH so that we could build our campus. Once he became CM, his involvement was even more. In fact, it was during his time, when I was also in the State Planning Board, that the budget allocation for NISH was multiplied several-fold, number one. The second area was that his interest with the activities of NISH and the kind of interaction that we had actually led to the setting up of what could be called as India's first program of a cochlear implant for young children. Anyone below the age of 3 was to be given the cochlear implant free of cost. And this was something which at that point of time was costing 8 to 9 lakhs. A lot of bureaucracy were not very much in favor of spending so much on a child, and I tried to justify that cost, but Oommen Chandy very clearly said, no need for a justification, this needs to be done, let us go ahead and do it. And it was done. It was the first, like I mentioned, the first such program in the country, and the government of India, a few years later, launched a very similar program. In fact, most of what we had done as groundwork was taken by the government, and the government of India implemented as a national program on cochlear implant free of cost for young children. The other one was his interest with what the children were doing. And when the investor meet was going on in Cochin, to which the Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, had come, based on discussions and proposals that we made, he immediately agreed that the artwork of the BFA students at NISH would be exhibited at that event, and he said he would want the Prime Minister to see them. Unfortunately, when the Prime Minister came out of the formal meeting, he went around and looked at all the artwork, and then he realized that none of the artists were there. And when I am told that they had to go out because the SPG wanted to do that, the Prime Minister actually met all the young artists at his hotel at the Taj Malabar that evening. Oommen Chandy's connect with people with disabilities, Oommen Chandy's connect with people with deaf was very, very high. In fact, that empathy that you find in Oommen Chandy, you would not find in too many leaders. I talked about the cochlear implant program earlier. On the cochlear implant program, a few years after it was implemented, there were complaints coming up saying that the cost of maintenance was very high. So he said, let's do one thing, let's just get an insurance for that, and that support also will be done by the government. And that is how the cochlear implant program was rolled out, followed up by successive governments who actually came forward and continued the program, that Kerala today has no wait list for cochlear implants for young children. Another area where he supported NISH heavily was when we wanted to take NISH as a university. And the proposal was given, there were a lot of discussions. He supported this. Dr. Samuel Matthew was the executive director at NISH at that time. Samuel, myself, and a few others worked on it. I worked with Dr. Abraham, who was then the Additional Chief Secretary in charge of social justice. Came out with a document. The cabinet approved a draft law to make NISH a state university. It was at that time that the central government, in Mr. Arun Jaitley's budget speech, talked about making NISH a National Institute of Excellence and announced a certain amount of money for that purpose. Unfortunately, that did not take on, but that university bill, which is still there, and I believe NISH should become a university as soon as possible, either a state university or a central university. At one point of time, we had a problem with some of the government secretaries where the program that we were doing on a diploma in computer science and engineering was not being recognized as a diploma, but secretaries wanted only as an ITI equivalent kind of a program, in spite of the fact that the people who came to examine thought that the quality of the projects that the students did were better than those of MCA students from the top engineering colleges. This went up and down, and it was when he came in that he actually got the file, and with the support of Mrs. Lida Jacob, that those approvals were done, and the diploma program that was given by NISH, conducted by NISH, was accepted, equivalent to a diploma that the government was giving. His connect and the way he would interact with people with disabilities was very, very high. I will have another video which I will talk about the disability sector and the state initiative disabilities that he had done.